Hello, YouTube. This is BUB'S Comics coming at you with the No Faces Comic Chat. Tonight we are the what are we? We're the Better Book Beast Feeders.
Yeah, I read that wrong. That third word, I thought it was the other type of feeders.
Oh, okay.
I thought it said breastfeeders. So I'd be a double take. I was like, what? Breastfeeders? What the hell is he talking about?
Well, thankfully, that's not the case. We got already.
Even Bub wouldn't go down that low yet.
Not yet. No, around the 15 after the hour mark when we're getting slap happy. We got
slap
happy.
We
got with us as always. We have DS Comics. Say hello, DS.
What's up, everyone?
And we have Metarog. Say hi, Roger.
Greetings, everyone.
Ooh, that was a close one. See, sometimes I can bait Roger into saying hi, Roger. If I say hi, Roger, he might say hi, Roger, just to be cute or whatever. So,
it's like the old George and Gracie show. Roger probably knows what that is. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
George Burns.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Say good night, Grace. Good night, Grace.
Yep.
Good night, Gracie.
That's good stuff. Boy, he lived to be what, 170 or something?
100. I think just straight up 100.
Man, they asked him one time, I remember what the key to life was, to a long, healthy life. And he said, I've smoked a cigar every day.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I'm not going to stop. But he ended up having to stop, I think, in somewhere around 97 or so. They're just, I think it was more of a fire hazard. In the chat already, we got Night Tiger, we got Gray Man coming from across the pond. Thank you. Area 51, Mike is here. Hey, what's up? And we got Werewolf by Lunchtime. Good morning from Perth. So he's over in Perth. So hello, welcome. And let's see.
Australia, Bob, if you didn't know.
Do what?
That's Australia, if you didn't know.
Oh, well, it's also Australia if I did know. So there you go. Funny how those facts work, isn't it there, Roger? We got the comic collector in the house.
From on fire today, guys.
From Heroes to Icons. I've been my wife fixed me. This is my birthday this weekend, and she fixed me a peanut butter pie on Friday. Ooh. And I'm still working on it. And every day the slice gets bigger. So Friday night it was a moderate portion Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, and now today. And the thing is it looks like a small football. Remember the little Nerf footballs? That's about the size of it. It's huge. It's easily 3 inches tall. The pie was a 9.8 when we started. It's about a 0.5 now. We got.
You should have taken a picture and put it on Instagram or something.
Well, she just brought me a slice. You guys want to see it?
Yeah,
we don't show beers like a lot of the other channels show what they're drinking and everything, and we're just showing food. Look at that! Look at that beast, you guys! Holy cow!
Whoa, look at
that's a beast. That's good stuff. So I'll be quiet for a little while. You'll be glad about that. Then we got Hialeah Comic Bros in the house. What a great name! What a great channel! Really.
Yo. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you see what he's got on those walls?
Yeah, he showed off his Bronze Age goodness today. I didn't get a chance to comment or anything, but it was beautiful. Very, and actually made me feel pretty good because he only had maybe 5 or 6 books that I didn't have that I really wanted, and the rest he had I either wanted or not my thing. But man, he had a bunch of books. They were awesome. Bronze Age, like he said, 70s. What a great time for comics. New characters, storylines. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's right on the ball.
Yep. Got Go-To Geeks in the house. We got Pope Cerebus. I never know if I'm saying that right. So welcome, everybody.
And you missed Bad Dad 320 is here.
Oh, I did. Thank you.
The greatest man cave comic room ever.
It is quite something.
Yeah. Speaking of great walls, oh my gosh.
Yes, and I like how it's all on that slanted wall. Where you're like, wow, it's like the never-ending comic wall. It's kind of coming at you like the Star Wars prologue. Good stuff. Let's see.
I bet you he has drool rag right by the front door because anybody who walks in there doesn't walk out without salivation.
I have that sign up on my door, but nobody ever pays attention to it.
Yeah, same
yeah,
here.
I know. The Medicaid of salivation, or whatever you call it.
He's still salty. He didn't win your contest, Roger.
I don't remember what my entry was, but it was golden.
I can tell you what it was. Hold on, I got all of these, man. I got all these written down.
That's all right.
Give me a minute.
Well, it's tough when you go against me, Bub, because I have never lost a contest entry ever.
That's because you don't enter any.
Yeah, that's the only one I entered and I won. So there you go.
Yeah, 1 for 1. That's not even a streak. You got to have at least 2 for a streak.
I'll get another one sometime.
Bub, you said the variant vault.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that's
that is good. That is good. That is good.
Yeah,
it's limiting though. I mean, it doesn't encompass a lot of what's in the room, so it's good for like the wall. You should have the variant wall, variant vaults maybe on one side.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, good. You already won, so at this point you're just gloating, like really, yeah.
You're rubbing it in at this point.
I was in first place, but I got to tell you, everyone from 2 to 38, they just didn't do it for me, you know.
Oh man, you guys are on fire tonight, man! I tell you, on fire.
All hopped up on sugar. Stuff's good.
Yeah, I tell you, with that pie, I tell you, it's
yeah,
bad time for that. Yeah.
She's a great.
You should have a 1 hour, 1 hour before the chat or after, not during.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you won't get much argument out of me on account of me having it during, so I'll probably be quiet for about 4 minutes. It'll take me to dust this thing off. I might even let Roger go first and have time for 3 slices. All right. Well, yes. Are you guys having a topic about getting solicited by high-end comic buyers trying to buy your comics, pushing mother suckers? I tell you what's true, because anyway, that's a big topic. We may do that another night.
Yeah, another night. Yeah, not tonight. Yeah, that's another night.
That's a big one. Tonight we're going to talk about books. What has prompted us to pull the trigger on books? How do books end up on our target list? So, I think most of us have either in our mind or we've written down some sort of want list, something that we're after at the beginning of the year or the beginning of con season, or however you want to look at it, or for Christmas, maybe even if you're that lucky. And then you're like, well, that list changes over time, or it's a short list. Like for me, I had 4 books on that list. I had 3 out of 4 by the end of February. So where do you go from there, right? The list has to grow some. And but like Hialeah Comic Bro, well, it doesn't have to, but it's going to, and that's where I'm getting to. So like like Hialeah Comic Bro said,
like the spot,
the beast has to eat. You got to feed the beast. And the beast, you got a monkey on your back, whatever you want to call it. You got something going on that you have this urge, we're all collectors. We have this urge to collect. But I want to talk about how the beast gets its appetite. And the first thing, and we can go round robin on this, 1 each or 2 each, or who cares? We're pretty loose on this show. But one of the first things that that happens for me, and I'll show a book I actually haven't shown yet, and I don't even remember who got it, but I found someone showed this book off in a hall not too long ago. And it's a Rifleman #4. And I absolutely loved it. Fell in love with it. And I was like, man. And people said, you don't see very many. Actually, I don't think it was a haul. I think it was on Facebook. Yeah, it was on Facebook. And people said, you don't see very many Rifleman comics other than Rifleman 10, which I had at that time already picked up, just barely. But when I saw it, I said, man, I would like to get some more Rifleman. That sounds good. And then all of a sudden you keep thinking, man, I really need that book. I got to have that book. And it goes from not needing it or knowing even of it. It goes from not even knowing about the book to it's missing in my collection. Like, how did it go from I didn't know it existed to my collection is incomplete without it? And to me, it's because the beast has green eyes. And when he sees something that someone else has, he kind of wants it. And then over time, it kind of grows into a desire and then just a flat out need to have it. So that happened with this book. And when I saw it, I had to have it. And then I got lucky and I saw it in the wild actually, and was able to pick it up just this weekend. And it was, man, I was clicking my heels all the way. So then,
so you found that in the wild after you saw it, and you're like, man, I'd like to have that. And then you went out and you just found it.
Yep.
That's good luck, man. That's good karma there.
Yeah, and I worked it down for like, less than half of what the sticker price was.
Well, of course.
Really?
Well, of course.
Yeah.
You don't even have to say that. You don't have to preface anything, Bub. We know you.
Well, I was really happy with
tactics.
that. But wait, there's just a hair more. Then I went back and was thinking about it, and when I was going to add the book to my list, to like my CLZ app on my phone, and I noticed it wasn't actually the book that I had fell in love with. So it's very similar, but it's not the actual book that I thought it was. But I no longer want that book because I like this one better. So there's a little twist ending. So I guess the other one was a Rifleman #1 special or something like that. It was maybe the first one that came out from Dell before it was an ongoing series. And it has them it also has a fence post and a rail, and the two of them, only his gun is pointing that way, and they're kind of like here on the post, like crouching down as opposed to standing over. So it's very, very similar cover. And I got kind of fooled by it, but I still wanted it. I'm still happy to have it. And the other one, I'm not real hot to get anymore. But if I see it, of course, I'll pick it up. So there you go. The monster has green eyes, is what I say. Jealous. What do you guys think of that?
Well, that's happened with me a lot where I, I'm not even aware of a book and I'll see somebody put it on their YouTube channel or something. And then I'll be like, man, that's a super cool book. And it's probably a book I've seen lots of times before, but it's not until somebody else explains why they dig it so much that I can sort of see what's so cool about it. Like I may have seen a book 100 times and I didn't know it was cool, or I didn't look at it beyond just what it was. And then somebody explains why they really like it, what about the cover, what about the story, or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that is a really good reason to like that. I really like that book now too. And then I'll go out and look for it. Yeah, so it's not really that I see it. It's that I see somebody else's perspective on it. And it sort of opened my eyes to looking at it in a different way. And then when that strikes me, I'm like, yes, I get it. I really do get why that book is awesome now. And then I will go out and get it.
That makes sense. I like
that happens a lot. Or, most of the time I'll research a particular thing and it just goes down this path of serendipity where I just go down these, I fall in a Wikipedia hole or something, just learn about something. I'll find that this is some unique thing or some early cover that somebody did that's off their beaten path. And I'll start researching it and I'll sort of fall in love with the book, searching for it. And then it won't be a week later, I'll see one and then I'll go get it. And I probably have seen it before and never noticed it. And that happens a lot with me with artists like L.B. Cole. There's still a lot of books of his that when I see, I had no idea. Comic Addiction picked up a book for like $1, an L.B. Cole book that I had never seen. He put it on his Instagram. He showed it up on his YouTube channel recently, a couple weeks ago. It's an L.B. Cole book I had never seen, and I'm totally in love with it now. So I've been searching, and I will find that book at some point, but he stoked the flames on that. It's a really cool L.B. Cole book I've never seen before. So, usually it's other collectors that spark my interest in something that I wasn't aware of before.
Don't you have a book of like L.B. Cole covers that you reference or no?
I do, but I mean, it doesn't have every single thing he's ever done. It's probably got most of it, but that book he picked up is not in it. It doesn't have a lot of like the cartoon ones. He was he moved on after the Comics Code Authority to be more of an executive role. He was the editor in chief for whatever company did Classics Illustrated, and they did some men's magazines, men's adventure magazines. And he didn't do a lot of art. He was just sort of in charge of it. He was the editor in charge, editor in chief, whatever you call it. But he did some covers for some of that stuff. It's not real well known. Some of it's not in that book I have, but some of it's really cool. And some of the cartoon kids stuff that he did is also not in this L.B. Cole book because they're considered lesser. They're not really that important, but some of them are really cool. So every day I find something of his that, not every day, but every week I come across something of his that I don't think I've seen before. or I've forgotten about, or it's new to me. Especially in Golden Age, I'm always seeing Golden Age stuff I've never seen before.
It is really cool to, you know, I was barely aware of Golden Age stuff before I started watching your channel. So pretty much I'll say all the LB Coles in my collection, because I have 2 now. And the Schomburg and the Lee Elias are all direct results of your infectious passion for their art style, clinging on to me and then making me desire a book that previously I may have passed up and just kept moving quickly, you know?
Yeah, and I really like seeing you pick up some of these Golden Age books. You got that little Golden Age wall going. And it just backs up what I'm saying, that people who like Golden Age but don't even waste their time looking for it because it's too expensive, you can show some of it, and you can show that you haven't paid a lot for any of those books, and they're really cool Golden Age books, and they're in decent shape. You don't have to spend a lot to get cool stuff. You're not going to get the grails, and I'm not going to have the top grails in any era, really. Now, most of us are never going to have the top books in any particular era or category, but you can get really super cool stuff if you are disciplined about it, and you're proof of that because you've started looking at Golden Age stuff, and you've picked up some really cool stuff for not too much money. I don't think you've spent much on those.
Oh no, yeah, not much at all. Well, see, what's funny, I haven't spent much at all, really, but you do have to make a decision, you know, at some point, whether you want to put the money towards, because I mean, even that one LB Cole that I got with the gorilla on it, you know, fighting the, you know, massive hawk or whatever it was, a buzzard. Even that one was like, you know, it was 20 something bucks. Oh, I think the sticker price was like 30, and I got them down to maybe like 18 or 20. But when you look at it like that, you know, 20 bucks to a lot of collectors, they could put that towards a book that they recognize, you know, more steadily. That is a lot of money. That's a lot of money for an impulse buy, I guess is what I'm saying. If you weren't already looking for some good Golden Age books, you might be like, well, why would I give you 30 bucks for this? You know?
Well, without the impulse buys, most of our collections would be cut in half, because we have goals, we have books we target, and we have grails lists and want lists and all that. But it's like 2 steps forward and 1 step back, because there's always those impulse buys. And they make up a good part of everyone's collection. You know, you find something and you just impulse, you buy it. It's not something on your list. It's not something you normally collect, but you'll pick it up because it's cool. So yeah, I mean, everybody does that. I tried to do it as little as possible, but I still do it. And it's, you know, you get some cool stuff that's sort of outside your main collecting thing. Without the impulse buys, you lose a little flavor in your collection. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, you're right. That's part of the, you know, it goes hand in hand with your passion for comics, right? Because when you're passionate about something, well, that's, you know, you have an emotional attachment. It's not really a logical, you know, not something that's rote, you know. When you're passionate about something, you know, there's going to be those X factors. Like when I picked up that True 3D comic that I picked up with the elephant on it.
Oh, I love that one.
I mean, you're right. I that was one of those where I saw it and I was like, you know, it's like, you know, I don't believe in love at first sight, you know, per se, but you know, that in that case, I was like, man, if that's cheap, I want it. And it was $10 shipped. So, you know, how can you say no to that? You know, when something is that affordable and that,
yeah, that's another Golden Age book too.
It is 1953. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to acknowledge some people who have come into the chat here before it gets too far down.
Yes, thank you.
Comic Geek McD is here from Scotland. My buddy over there. He just had a really nice video where he showed those Deadpool books that he got, really nice looking ones. Gretzky 9966 is in the house, and he says it's raining, it might be flooding, so people are giving him advice, but putting up his books, putting them upstairs, putting them in dishwashers, all kinds of things to protect those books. I hope it doesn't flood over there, buddy. And then Matt, the boy who had 7, is in the house. And also we have Biggie Shack, who's now his channel name is now Melody because his girlfriend changed it by mistake. So that's everybody that's new in the chat. Thank you everybody for joining us. It is an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you for being here. And
thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Commemorate it. That's done.
Yeah, so I pulled out an impulse buy that I just was reminded by something Roger had up there a minute ago, but he doesn't now. It was the Godzilla.
It's still there. It's just behind this.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember. There's something going on with Godzilla, and I was getting fired up, and I was like sort of reminiscing about my childhood and how much I loved Godzilla. And I was like, there's that Godzilla #1 Bronze Age, but Godzilla's been around a lot longer. I'm like, I wonder what's the first actual appearance of Godzilla. So I just went and researched it for like a couple days, just researching Godzilla. Didn't take me that long to find the first appearance, but I just, researched Godzilla for, 2 days and found that the actual first American comic book appearance was in this just sort of a one-page fold-over comic that they handed out in theaters when the first Godzilla movie was released in the United States theaters. And I went searching for it, and a couple of days later, or maybe a week later, I found a guy who had several, and I negotiated a deal on one of them, and then I picked up this, which is not something that really fits in my collection, but it sort of does. I mean, it's horror, but this is just a really cool item that I had no idea about one day, and then the next day I was on the hunt for it. And yeah, it's probably really not worth that much, but it's just a super cool piece of history. First American appearance of Godzilla in a comic. So just an impulse buy, and it's become a really cool item in my collection. It's just it's not pre-code horror, it's not Golden Age. It's from like 73 or something, maybe. I don't remember.
Mm-hmm. But that's such a unique item. I mean, you just don't see it much. I mean, I have seen a few copies of it, but it's a very unique item. And the way it was distributed is one of those reasons that I love those alternate distribution comics, like promo comics, giveaways, sendaways, because they're just so different, and just the way they were distributed. And thus, they're usually a little bit tougher to find in any kind of decent shape also. And that one looks to be really nice.
Yeah, this one's pretty nice shape. I'm going to get it pressed just because it's got some rippling and a little slight fold on the bottom. There's no such thing as color breaking with this because it's just 2 pages. It's one piece of paper folded over. So it's like 4 pages of panels. But, it's not sturdy, obviously. It doesn't have staples. There's no real spine to speak of or covers. I can't imagine many of these survived if they were handed out in the theaters before people sat down for the movie. So it's cool to have a nice, solid, this is probably, as it sits an 8.5 to a 9.0. And there's, no tears on it or anything. So yeah, this is a nice copy of something I think is pretty rare, and it's just really cool. But it's never something I planned on picking up.
Charlton wanted to do a Godzilla and King Kong comic, but they couldn't swing the license, so they did a thinly veiled Gorgo and Konga.
Right. Yeah.
That was their version of Godzilla and King Kong.
Yeah, and those Gorgo books are pretty cool, actually. I really like those.
They are. In fact, I think Bub had one on the thumbnail here for this video. So
I had several of those before I started my YouTube channel. I had sold them, so I never had any to show off on my channel. But I had, I used to have a lot of those like bronze monster type things, and I think the Gorgos were from the Silver Age into the bronze.
Yeah, late 60s. Yeah, I want to say late 60s. Yeah.
And I had quite a few of those, and they were just really cool books.
Yeah, I'm sure I have still some probably in my mom's house or my cousin's house, but they didn't make it to when I moved up to the Tampa area. But I definitely have at least 5 or 6 of those.
I like them. They're campy and they're cheesy.
Yep.
But they're cool. That Godzilla one there's the Gorgo that I had on the thumbnail.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
There you go.
I love that. I forget that's a Steve Ditko cover.
Yeah,
just beautiful.
Nice.
That comic that you had up there, that was the one where they like famously misnamed everybody, right?
You're talking about mine?
Yeah.
Were they misnamed what, the monsters?
Yeah, the monsters had the wrong names. Like they didn't match the names that were shown in the movie.
Oh,
so when they printed so when they printed the I've looked into that book too. It doesn't come up very often actually. For sale. There's 1 or 2 a year maybe in decent condition, and there doesn't seem to be a real strong price history for them either. But that one has the names of the monsters inside didn't match the names that they ended up being in the film because it was all kind of redubbed and changed. So when they printed off the pamphlets or the comics, they had the wrong names for the monsters.
Okay, yeah, I don't think I was aware of that. Bub, I think I talked to you the night I bought this. I think I paid like $50 for it, maybe, which sounds like a lot, but there's not many out there, and for $50, what the hell?
That's in great condition too.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't pay $50 for one that
that's
was
about
rough,
the best condition one I've seen. Usually they're all dog-eared, and there's a lot of like bent down on the bottom and the top because people would just pick them up and wag them from the top.
Yeah, the only thing this one has, if you can see it, is I don't know if we'll be able to see.
Little tanning.
This corner down here is got a little bit of a bend to it. I don't know how well that's showing up.
Yeah, that's not
and
bad.
There's some slight rippling on the bottom, but it's not even really. You can see there like a slight ding. But otherwise, this is a sharp, piece of paper. Really, it's just slightly tanned on the edge, but I mean, it's nice. I'd say it's an 8.5, and I'll get it pressed and slabbed, honestly, because this is something that I just want to preserve. And even with the bag and board, I have a magazine size bag and board. It fits the entire thing. So if I drop this, or it's already got a slight bend to it. So I got to get that slabbed because it's like two pieces. It's like one piece of paper folded over.
Yeah. None of those are going to be perfect. Remember, we're talking about something that was meant to be read at the theater and thrown away. So
right.
Yeah. That is true. But to have him survive that well, and I mean, DS, you're nitpicking that book because you're so used to flipping 9.8s that you're hunting for every little flaw. But to a collector like me, that's like I'd be scared to hold that because it's in such good condition. So that's pretty awesome that you've got it in that good a condition. Not just considering where it is and where it's from, but just period. I mean, a little dog ear here and there isn't going to hurt that book.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's Golden Age, I just look for something presentable. And right here, I've got a 2.0 and a 3.0, and these are grails for me, and I love them, and they're perfect condition for me. But when I get to, bronze depends on the book, but definitely past 1980. Yeah, I'm looking for pristine, perfect books because I really believe it's attainable. There's so many out there. I think it's realistic to expect a pristine book if it's 1980 and beyond. And that one's a 73, but I would have settled for something a little less, but why not? That one's in real nice shape. So, but yeah, if it was a Golden Age book, if that was from the 50s, I wouldn't care really.
It's pretty cool. I like it. So someone else throw out something that helps them to target a book. Like what motivates you to target a specific book? So we got a little bit of envy, right? A little bit of that. I wouldn't say jealousy necessarily, but a little bit of envy. And we have some appreciation, right? Where you see someone else appreciate it and it kind of infects your way of looking at it, changes your perspective of a book. So Roger, what do you think? What do you got for us?
Well, I wouldn't use any of those words, but when I learn of something new, when I learn of something that either I perhaps knew about it tangentially or subconsciously at some point, but something that really piques my interest, something that I didn't know and I want to find out about, that is something that I generally, if it's affordable, will go after. Like for example, the Sandman purple variant. Let me show you that. This is something that I knew about, but I'd never actually owned one until I got this some time back, and so I wanted to see what all the hullabaloo was about. And I thought, well, maybe it's one of those where just the ink kind of starts running out, so that you get a different shade. But I don't think so. It's so stark of a difference, and I had to see for myself, if that was the case. So I got this for like a couple bucks or something. I mean, I don't remember. So to me, that was affordable enough, and things of that nature, like these here, these test variants. There were only two. It's Justice League 3 and Firestorm 61. And these the test is the logo up here. See, that was when DC was trying to see if kids would buy it, if younger kids would buy it if they put Superman in the logo. They didn't. So they only had, and these are two different covers from the usual covers. This one is like a white cover normally, and this one's like a purple cover. They totally changed the cover too. Again, they're trying to they were trying to see if they could make it, if they made the cover a little more kid friendly, if that would, help also. So those kind of things, just to me, and what I was saying before about comics like DS has that were marketed or that were distributed differently. Those are the kind of things that pique my interest. As you know, I'm not a big key collector. To me, that doesn't really, wind my watch. But something that was made, either marketed or it was created under certain circumstances, whether it be cultural or whether it be financial, those are the kind of things that really interest me. And I also want a complete run. So when I see, a comic that I need in my run, that's the one of those that I want to go after. But that's kind of a different dynamic than what we're talking about here.
Well, not always. I mean, you're kind of talking about a variant inclusion in a run that you didn't know existed. So you may, that's different than just saying, oh, well, I'm a completist. That is still something that sparks you because you're sitting there, you're looking through your run, you maybe even think it's complete, and then you find out that there's some offhand variant that truly is in that run, and now it's missing. Now all of a sudden there's something missing from your collection, and you got to go get it. So
correct, that's correct. That's exactly, and you encapsulize exactly correct. But sometimes the things are minuscule. I mean, sometimes they're very, like those I was showing before with the different covers, those are obvious, but we're talking about price variance. A lot of people don't care if up here there's 30 or 35, big deal. And they're right, it's not a big deal. But when you think about the approach that comics took at that juncture to market, to try to see if they could expand, their make more money by just upping it, percentage points, and that they actually did that in a smaller, in a more focused market to see if it would work, and it did, and there wasn't resistance. That to me, that's golden kind. That's just amazing kind of history and marketing strategy.
I like that pretty well. And, it doesn't have to be exclusive to non-key type stuff either. Sometimes you have a key book that also intersects with a key variant. Like, I think of Star Wars #1 with its price variant, so there can be a little bit of a world in there. And I guess that probably can be frustrating for a fella or a collector like you when you want the book for a completely different reason. And then it's very hard to get because it is the rarest of a key. So
correct. Yeah, correct. That's why you have to be. That's why you have to be so far ahead of the curve when it comes to that. When I put together my complete 30-cent variant set 15, 16 years ago, I looked at it and I said to myself, is this actually something I can do on a budget? And is it something that I can do before these books get out of hand? And I did a sort of inventory of whether or not I was actually going to be able to do it. And what I'm saying, financially not so much, but just that I had the impetus for the long haul. And I looked at things just like that. I go, is there something in this run that's going to be a big stumbling block? And there were a couple, but I got those early on. So at that point, I then had a lot of momentum to get the rest of the run. Now, the 35-cent variants, that's a whole nother animal. They are extremely expensive. And I knew right off the get-go, I wasn't going to pay, $20,000 to get a set of 35-cent variants. That's just insane to me. But 30-cent variants at that time, I think I did it for a little more than $1,000, which was pretty darn good.
You have the Star Wars one too, don't you? Do you have that one?
Not.
Oh, you don't have that one? Yeah, you're going to have to bite the bullet on that, Roger.
No, I mean, did you not listen to what I just said?
That's a 35.
Hello, I'm gonna pull a JD here. Hello, is this mic on? Hello.
I love it. Yeah. So he's avoiding the 35ers because they're just too heavy. They're just
yeah, and I think that Star Wars 35-cent variant is like the priciest book from the Bronze Age or something. Is that right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, correct.
It
Yeah.
just
There
amazes.
are copies that have sold for over $10,000.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That book just amazes me because if not for the price variant on that book, the regular book is very modestly priced for being, a number one in the Bronze Age and being a Star Wars book. You know what? I don't know. Somebody will correct me, I'm sure, in the chat or later, but I'm thinking it's somewhere in the vicinity of a low grade copy, $30 to $40, and a high grade probably close to $100.
No, it's more than that. I mean, if you're talking like slabbed copies in the 9.2 to 9.4 range, it's a couple $100.
Even for the regular variant, the regular cover,
the non-variant, just the regular standard 30-cent one. It's yeah. I mean, a 9.2 to 9.4 is probably a couple $100. Yeah,
that's still a big spread, as you like to say.
It's a huge spread. Yeah, it's gigantic.
Yeah. I know somebody who has. I know two. Obviously, being in the variant club, so to speak, I know two collectors who have multiple copies of them.
Well, I mean, I know a guy who's got a Black Cat 50, but that doesn't make me any happier.
No, I was going to say, I mean, and they have tried to pull me in, and entice me by saying, we'll give you good deals and all this. And of course, this was years when I was working and had more of a rolling income. But I never bit that bullet because I knew once you get to the bottom of the barrel and you want to get those Westerns and you want to get the Scooby-Doo and Flintstones, that is game over. It's next to impossible. There's only a handful in existence.
Wow.
Yeah, at one point several years ago, I was going to start trying to get some of those price variants. But Roger, I have a lot of respect for you for getting any of them, really, because I was going to start looking for those, and they're just so hard to find. And I'm like, man, this is going to take me like 75 years to even get some of them. I started looking for the Spider-Man ones. What is it, like 169 through 172 or something like that, in that range, I think.
Through 173, I do believe, yes.
Okay, yeah, I know it was like 160 to 170 in that range. And they're just so hard to find. I was looking everywhere for them, and I couldn't find any. And so that's the ones I was going to start with, and I didn't even find any after like a year. So I just gave it up.
No, and in your area, you probably have a better shot at the 30-cent variants because those were test marketed around the Baltimore area. So,
well, that's. I'm out of that phase now, so it's something I never owned. At one point, I really wanted those, and I couldn't find any, and I just got, just really disappointed that I couldn't find anything for this run or set, and I gave up after it was a while, 8 to 12 months, and I just I've moved on since then, and there's some things I used to go after, and I regret not having. Even though now I wouldn't go after them, but at the time I really wanted them, and I wished I would have got them and then sold them and still be where I'm at now, but have had them at one point. And one of those is the X-Men #1. I had every Silver Age X-Men except for 1 and 14, the Sentinels, first Sentinels. Yep. I didn't have 1 and I didn't have 14. I had every other single Silver Age X-Men up to where the reprint one started. And that was, I was looking at an X-Men 1 right before I started my channel. And I think I probably even put X-Men 1 on my very first want list that I did on YouTube. But I never got it. I've never owned an X-Men 1. I had all the other ones except for 1 and 14. 14 you could pick up. That's much cheaper, obviously. But I regret not owning it. Same as these variants. But I'm not going back to get them now. So It's just something I never had owned.
I mean, if the only reason I would, the only way I would think that you would get it is if you found, some kind of big find of them. And that has happened, on Craigslist or, convention, things like that. That has happened before. But otherwise, nowadays, they're just way out of, they're too pricey for what they are, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And if there's some stuff, if I came across it, I would sell it and flip it for money. But it would have an extra satisfaction that, yes, I owned it finally.
There you go.
In my collecting. Like if I find an X-Men 1 somewhere in a lot or something or whatever, I will still sell it to make money. But I will hold it and say to myself, finally, I've got the X-Men 1, first time I've owned this. And then I'll sell it, but I will have had it. So,
and those are things where there's no substitute for that book. You know, you either have that book or you don't have that book.
Right.
You know, we're talking about price variance and things. I mean, there could not be any less of a difference in a book. You know, the interior is going to be the same. The story is the same. The cover is basically the same. The art certainly is the same. You know, so that difference is so small that if you had the Star Wars 30-cent regular cover, that's probably going to satisfy your urge to own that book for most people. And then only the really rabid collectors are going to have that 35-cent variant. But if you've got, you know, if you have one X-Men 1, that you've got it. You know, there's no it's not like there's any little change you could make to where you could save $1,000 in purchasing it. It's just either you have it or you don't.
But I'll tell you why I never owned that, and this might help some other people out there who are going after runs or grails, is what I did is I bought what I could afford as quickly as possible early. So I bought, like, you know, X-Men 47. I bought a nice copy cheap. And I sort of worked my way from, you know, the 50s down. And then I remember struggling to pick up a 12. And then, you know, I was filling my way down towards the Grail. I never got it. So anybody who's looking to do something like that, collect a run or fill out a set like that, try and just go for the gusto and get the big ones first and then fill in the small ones later, because you know, the prices on this stuff go up over time. And, you know, the price on the X-Men 1 over the course of the, you know, years that I was collecting the other ones was going up, and I wasn't picking it up, and I was picking up all these other smaller ones down the line. And if I would go back in time, I would just pick up 1, 4, 12, 14, like 35 and 27 or 28, and then fill in all the other ones later. But the first one I picked up was 51, I think, the Steranko cover with Eric the Red on it. Is that 51 or 50? That's 51.
No,
because 50 is Polaris.
51.
Yeah, Polaris.
Yeah, that was the first one I picked up, was 51. And, you know, I think that was a mistake for trying to get an X-Men run together, because I should have started at number 1. I should have just done everything I could to get the 1 or the 4 first. And you can get a 51 anywhere, man. So that's, you know, any advice I have to somebody who's on a budget or trying to put together a set or a run, get the big ones first and fill in the small ones later, because it's definitely more cost effective that way. And, you know, what happened with me is I never got the 1 because of that.
Well,
and I tried hard at the end. Here's what I did at the end too. I sold off everything from like 30 on. I sold all of them off to get together money to buy a 1. So it was like I bought all those and then I sold them all to put money together to get a 1. And I had enough, but then I bought a pre-code horror book, and I struggled to get X-Men 1 or pre-code horror that I wanted. And I got the pre-code horror, and that was right around the tipping point where I moved away from superhero stuff anyway. So,
well, you guys, your stories kind of intersect for me there, because Roger was saying that he wasn't, you know, a big key chaser, you know, that doesn't really float his boat or whatever euphemism he shot out there.
My watch is what I use, but
yeah, it doesn't wind his watch. Yeah, his boat floats on its own, but the watch needs winding.
I'm old school. We used to have to wind watches manually.
Oh, I did. I remember that. My grandfather had one of those. So anyway, I had I had the opposite track. I was picking up all the small books before picking up the big book, kind of like DS was saying. And then I was doing that with my Werewolf by Night run, trying to complete that. And I had such a hard time, and it was so frustrating that the last book just kept getting more expensive while I was picking up the other books. It took me a while to get the rest of the books at a reasonable price for me. And then as I was approaching Werewolf by Night 32, I was like, well, this is getting ridiculous. Every time I buy another book, I look back, and Werewolf by Night 32 just went up $20. So I feel like, you know, it was at the time where it was really rising last year. It was just skyrocketing. And I was like, man, you know, I'm going to miss out. But I did. I waited. I finished the entire run except for that book. And then I, you know, saved all my money and was hunting for a good copy and ended up scoring it. But at that time, that's when I decided I would never do that again. I said, I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to get the easy books first and then go for the Grail book or the key book, because I felt like I was spending more money that way. Felt like I was losing money because the big book is moving in price and the little books aren't.
Yeah, so, I mean, I liken it to this. You can collect uphill or you can collect downhill. collecting uphill is much tougher on your wallet and your sanity than collecting downhill. You collect the big ones first, you're moving downhill, and the stress is going away as you're filling in your collection. You've already got the big ones. Your stress level's lower, your rush is lower, your wallet's in better shape. It's much better to collect downhill for sets and runs than if you're trying to collect uphill. It's so stressful, and it just drives you so crazy, and it gets worse.
Once you have that big one out of the way, once you have that big one out of the way, you can be much more patient, because as you say, the ones that are not key, or the ones that are not moving, well, they're not moving. So you can look for much better bargains over time. You don't have to rush into it.
And that's what I've done with my pre-code horror. I've made a list of, what I think are the top 15 or 20 pre-code horror books, grails for me. And I've tried to just go after the big ones, and I've got most of them now. So my stress level, or my completist mentality, or my sanity, and my wallet also are all in better shape, because I've got, most of the big books. I've got most of the top 10 on my list. I think there's maybe one or two I don't have on my top 10. So I'm going downhill. So it's much easier to collect at this point. I mean, I've got a Black Cat, which is number 1. The Startling Terror right here is number 2. The Chamber of Chills 19 is probably number 3. And I've got all those, and I made a point to get all those early in my PCH collecting. And now it's downhill. Now I can sort of pick and choose and wander a little bit. I don't have to stick to the script, and I feel very comfortable and satisfied with the collection. And it's much cheaper, because some of these books, if I would wait to get some of these books, they just get so expensive, and they're already pricey. I mean, I have to, hustle my butt off to even afford any of them at all. So yeah, uphill versus downhill is much tougher.
Doesn't that make it more rewarding in a sense, DS, because you did put that effort and you did it the right way? It's not like it just dropped into your lap, and because you worked hard, you have that sort of that ethic behind it, that history behind it, that you remember, how you felt when you achieved that goal that you set for yourself. To me, that makes it a lot more rewarding than just, hey, somebody gifted it to you, or
Well, interesting story about that. All right, so my top 2 PCH grails are the Black Cat 50, which most people are probably familiar with if you see my channel. And I've got that in a 7.0. It's crazy that I even own that. That's number 1, and this is, probably tied for, these are the top 2, Startling Terror Tales, and this is a 2.0, and it's pretty beat. This one, I hustled my butt off to get this Startling Terror Tales, and it's super satisfying. I hustled, I flipped books, I saved money, I searched, I targeted, and I was disciplined, and I finally got a 2.0. Love it. The other one sort of fell in my lap. I had some money. I sold a bunch of just Copper Age stuff, but it was all 9/8 big keys. I sold all that. I was looking for a Black Cat. Couldn't find one. I made a post on Instagram, like, anybody have one of these? I'm just looking for a 2.5 if anybody's got it. Nobody had one. I went to Baltimore Comic Con with all this money to buy one. There wasn't one there. So, I come back, I get a message, and he's like, hey, are you still looking for a Black Cat? I'm like, yeah, because I still had the money for that, and I was so disappointed when I came back from Baltimore I couldn't find one. And he's like, well, I've got one. He's like, how much are you paying per point? And I told him, and he's like, well, I've got one that's like a 6.0. And I'm like, well, I'm thinking to myself, damn, that's probably more than I need, but if I get a chance of getting this and I can afford it, I'm going to try. So I actually drove 4 hours to meet the guy, looked at it, went over it carefully, and actually bought that raw copy. So that one sort of fell in my lap. I did a lot of work and it fizzled out. And then after I had sort of given up hope for the year, it sort of fell in my lap. And it just at a time where I had the money from selling like ASM 301, a 238. I had a lower grade 300. What low is 9.4? What else did I have? ASM 129 I sold. Some other stuff. I had, a bunch of Spider-Man and stuff. And I had a big chunk of change, and it was right when that guy hit me up after I'd lost all hope. It sort of fell in my lap. So both equally satisfying in different ways.
Yep. Yeah, agreed. But regardless, you had saved that money, and you had that was already there. You just didn't have the opportunity until then.
Right.
The satisfaction must have been immense, because you at one point you had given up hope, and all of a sudden, boom! And
it was the most nervous I had ever been as a collector when I bought that raw off a guy I didn't know, even though I had inspected it closely. And I sent it off to CGC under the walkthrough tier. So it was just a 1-day turnaround. And I was freaking out for the whole day, for the whole 24 hours, because I don't know if this thing is trimmed. Trimming's tough to spot. I don't know what's going to come back at, the grade. I don't know if they're going to lose it. Like, it's out of my hands. I had it for a minute, and then I sent it off, and I was like a nervous wreck for 24 hours. And then they posted the grade and posted it shipped, and I watched it on the tracking, and it's, you know, still a nervous wreck until it got to me. But the most nervous I've ever been as a collector is when, from the point I bought that raw to the point I got it back in the slab, was probably just a week period. And I was a nervous wreck during that week.
I bet. It's tough seeing your babies go off. If you sent it to CBCS, you'd still be waiting.
Yeah, and it actually came back a point higher than what me and him, I thought it was probably, you know, 5.5 to a 6. He told me it was a solid 6. I'm like, all right, it's probably 6. It came back at a 7. So it came back even higher. And the price on that has skyrocketed since. That book in a 7 would be astronomically out of my price range right now.
Nice.
So yeah, I got that. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to save, like, get the smaller PCH ones and work my way up to that. I'd never get it. Same with the X-Men. I learned my lesson from that.
Well, what happened to me was it turned me into a key collector, because I decided, well, if this is a run that I'm even remotely interested in having a completed run of someday, then I need to go ahead and get the keys now. And then if I want to complete the run, it'll all be downhill. So instead of starting at the top of a hill, picking up a big key, and then paying my way down, I just hopped from one top of a hill to another top of a hill and picking up all the key books in those runs. And then I decide which runs I want to go ahead and complete. And then I'll slope down there and pick up the books on the way. So it kind of turned me into a key collector. I didn't really intend to be one. I started off more as a completist. And then I realized I need to pick up the keys. If I want to complete the runs, I should pick those up early. And then I realized, well, if I'm picking up a key to this run, and then I go down and pick up all the dollar books on the way down to complete the run, I'm also wasting time and money when I should be going to another hill and picking up another key. That way I can, if and when I'm ready to complete that run, then it's all easy books. You know, so now my collection's a lot more.
You're kind of like in various camps, really, because you do pick up comics for completing runs, like your Werewolf by Night and your Lone Ranger and your, you know, 007 and things like that. But you also picked up the House of Secrets 92, which, unless you're thinking of picking up a Swamp Thing run, you know, afterwards, is kind of like an outlier.
Well, I've been trying to pick up the first 10 of Swamp Thing so I can get the Wrightson run. But what ended up happening to me was, on the way of completing runs, I decided I kind of switched gears, and I said, instead of picking up key books for runs, sometimes I just pick up key books for artists. And so that is, for me, the Bernie Wrightson cover. And I picked up, you know, Tomb Raider 33, because that was one of the Adam Hughes covers for me. And I picked up and I'm working on my Steranko run right now, because for me, I think he's going to be the next big price jump when it comes to artists. I think, you know, I've met Steranko, and he's very wily and very with it, and very hip. He's a hip cat. But when it comes down to it, yes, but I also met Stan Lee a year before, or 2 years before he passed, and he was just as sharp and quick-witted. So that concerns me. And Steranko's getting up there, so I picked this book today, or got this in today. So I've been picking up as much classic Steranko as I can too. And then when you start doing that, you end up all over the board. Like you said, you know, I got my House of Secrets 92. Well, why is that there? It's really because I wanted the Wrightson. I wanted the Wrightson book. And I'm working my way through the best of Steranko so that I can have kind of a best of artist kind of thing going on.
Yeah,
you know?
One thing that happened with me and still progresses with me is I used to try to collect runs, like that X-Men run. I wanted every Silver Age X-Men. what I do now is, I'm not hardcore completist, but I have sets I go after instead of runs. And the last one I gave up on as a quote run was Chamber of Chills. I was going to try to get the whole run, all 26 issues in the Chamber of Chills. But what happens is and this is the process of learning about yourself as a collector and who you are as a collector. When you pick up the bigger ones, you might find that you don't want the other ones, and that run was not that important to you. It was the grails within it that fueled you thinking that you wanted the whole run. But once you get the grails, it satisfies that entirely, and you don't want the run anymore. And you still might want to get sets. Like there was a Chamber of Chills set that I want, and it's the grails that I've picked out of that. And I have the Chamber of Chills grails that I want, and that's like my Chamber of Chills set. So it's complete, but I don't have a complete run, but I still consider my Chamber of Chills set to be complete. And you might find that when you pick up some of the big ones, you lose interest in the other ones, and then you sort of learn that maybe I didn't really want the whole run of them. I just wanted the X-Men 1 and the X-Men 4, or you start learning who you are, and it's really tough to move on from something like when you've had it in your mind so long you want a full run of whatever, and then when you get a couple grails or a certain artist in that run and you get those, and then you sort of lose interest, you want to hold on to that desire to get the run. It's something you've had with you for so long, you don't want to get rid of it, and it's tough to move on from that. But if you're able to sort of evolve with your collecting based on your tastes, and you'll see that it's more satisfying to collect sets, and you can make your own sets. It's not necessarily what the numbers are on the books, it's what you think is the set. The Swamp Thing, the Wrightson covers, that's a complete set. That's a full quote run. If you were going to tell yourself, I want the whole Swamp Thing run, that's huge. But if you just want the Wrightson ones, that's a much more manageable set, and that may be what you only really want. You'll find that that's what fueled you wanting any of the Swamp Things.
Yeah, and that's what happened. So I'm going to try and get the first 10 of the Wrightson run on Swamp Thing, get the 1 through 10, but those books are kind of pricey. And similarly to what you were saying, I was looking at She-Hulk, Sensational She-Hulk, and I wanted all the Byrne issues of Sensational She-Hulk. And then I was literally holding them in my hand at a con, and I had the filler ones, not the key Byrne issues. There's about maybe 4 books there that command more than $1 or so, and I didn't have those, but I had almost every other book but those, and I was holding them in my hand for $1 each at a con, and I put them back, and I said, man. You know what? I said, I don't really want the entire Byrne run. I just want the key Byrne issues that I really like. I don't want to just have to be able to say, oh, well, I got every Byrne issue of Sensational She-Hulk. Really? Like, who's going to carry that card around? I said, I just want the key.
I'm waving here, Bub. I'm waving.
Hey, what's up? You want to carry that card?
I carry that card around.
Yeah, well, some people, that's the point when you're holding those at the con, when you put them back, that's when you learn a little more about yourself as a collector, because some people will still pick them up, and then you truly are a run collector. You want the full run, you want this series or whatever, but you put them back. Maybe you're not a run guy, maybe you're a set guy, maybe you want to collect sets, maybe you want to just go after some keys. And you've got to be open to how you react to things in an honest way. You've got to be honest with yourself about a collector, and don't just do things in a sort of mechanical way, in an automatic way. Like, you set your mind to getting a full run, so you're going to do it even though you find yourself hating that you're spending money on these, and there's something else there you really want, but you're pulling out all these dollar ones because it fills your run. Maybe if it's not satisfying you, you need to think about, be honest with yourself. What do you really want as a collector? And it's tough to do, because when we all start, we all want full runs of all that stuff. But I've moved on. I don't have full runs of anything, but I've got sets I'm working on, and it's just, you just got to be open to how you react to certain things when you're collecting, and learn about who you are as a collector, what you really want, and then you need to go after that.
Well, my wife had asked me a big question the other day, so I brought some books home Saturday, and this was one of them. So this is Dave Stevens' cover for Johnny Quest #5.
Beautiful too.
And yeah, it's absolutely, I love it. And so I've been picking up a ton of Dave Stevens stuff lately. And so she asked me, she's like, what's special about that book? And I said, well, it's a Dave Stevens cover. I think it's pretty cool. And she's like, yeah, I like how it looks. I just wondered why it looks random. You know, it looks like a completely random book. I was like, well, yeah, it's the Dave Stevens cover was the reason I picked it up. And she asked me, she said, so did you get into Dave Stevens because you found out he was the artist on the Rocketeer, which she knew I already liked the Rocketeer. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, what's funny is that I did, yes. When I found out he was the artist on the Rocketeer and I started exploring more of his stuff and I realized how much I liked the other things. But when I found out who he was and started looking at books and that I already liked, you know, every time I saw what I then knew as a Dave Stevens cover, I liked it. But I went back into my collection and I already had 3 Dave Stevens covers in my collection that I had picked up solely because I liked the art. And I thought were cool. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know to look. This was one of them. I had picked up this King Kong book, which I absolutely love. And I just picked it up because I thought it was a badass cover. And it turned out to be a Dave Stevens cover. So sometimes you just collect what you like and you end up accidentally creating a set of things that you didn't necessarily set out. Like usually when you collect a run, you're set out to make a run. But sometimes sets happen by accident.
Yeah, but the runs were made by somebody else. The sets are made by you. It's much more satisfying and much more unique,
I love
much
that.
more tailored to you. The X-Men run was set up by Marvel, and it's numerical. But you can collect a Dave Stevens set complete. You can say, I have a complete Dave Stevens set. And they'll be like, oh, do you have this book? And you say, no, that's not in the set. You can go through all the Dave Stevens stuff. You pick out the ones you want. You make the list. Here's the Dave Stevens books I want. When you get everything on that list, your Dave Stevens set's complete. And then you can say, I'm a Dave Stevens completist. And they'll ask you about all these books, and you can say, no, I don't have those. They're not in the set.
Yeah, we set our own rules here. We set our own rules. We don't have to follow some kind of rote, you know, or the price guide or anything like that. I don't do that. I mean, like, I follow George Perez and John Byrne, so I hunt down their stuff, you know. And I don't care if it's in Charlton or if it's in Image or whatever. If it's something that I like that's from one of those two, I'm going to get it because I know I'm going to enjoy it. That's
cool. What do you got there, Roger? What are you showing at us?
Because From Heroes to Icons is in the chat, so I wanted to shout him out. He sent me this last year, a great AOK. He's an artist, a fabulous artist. And so this is actually a blank cover that he did for me, and he signed it down here. And it's obviously the Superman logo, Green Lantern, and Batman. So I just wanted to shout him out and thank him again for, you know, his generosity and his kindness. And here is the front cover. I wanted to show you that. Look at that.
Oh, wow.
Look at that beauty. I'm just so blessed, you know, and this community has been just so, you know, I don't know, accepting of me, even though, you know, through my quirkiness and my, because I know I'm kind of different than most people. I don't buy new comics. I don't speculate. I don't buy for, you know, prices. I don't, you know, buy high end stuff. So I really do appreciate when somebody like this takes it upon themselves to say, you know, here's something that I want you to have. And I love it. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love it. Good job.
Hey, Bub, I'll show you a set that I've put together. And this is a set that's unique, and it's one I put together. If you want to lock it on my screen.
Yep, you're locked on.
All right,
okay, I got you.
All right, so this is Golden Age Shark covers. Is that coming up? Are you guys able to see that?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, we see it.
So
that new adventure, that's going to be a toughie.
Yeah, Adventure Comics 27. Yeah, that one's, I mean, there may only be 20 of those in existence.
I only know of about 20, yeah. That's right.
And even if you find
one, that Daredevil one.
10 grand.
Yeah, I've seen the Daredevil. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm working on this. I've actually got these top two. These are not in order, but this is, you know, this is a set I'm working on. This will take forever, and I may never finish it. But the first two I put on there just because I'm going after the LB Cole Shark covers, and I picked up these two this year.
I've never seen that Uncle Milty one. That's a new one.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. I've never seen that either.
I mean, there's some of these I just, whenever I find one, I go to my comic shop and I click the image and I add it to the list. But a lot of these you'll see before, and some of them are cheap and available, and some of them are hard to find, and they're just all shark covers, and they're all cool. There's another Adventure Comics there in the middle.
I used to have that Classic Illustrated. I know that one.
Yeah, like that one's around. This one over here, this Real Comics 11 is a Schomburg shark cover. That one's not very expensive, but it's tough to find.
Heckle and Jekyll. Isn't that really a shark cover? Come on.
Yes, it's got a shark right there.
I don't know. It's like an orca, but it's
anthropomorphic shark.
Yeah, there's a couple cartoonish ones on here. Let me see.
Second word you said was shark.
Yeah, this 7 Seas is going to be tough also, this Matt Baker one over here.
Oh, that's a beauty. That's the 7 Seas girl. Oh, man.
Yeah, and it's a shark. And
two of those, I'll give you the second one.
Yeah, thanks. Good luck.
Yeah. Man, what a trade that is, I tell you. Yeah. That's a bub trade. He thinks that's quid pro quo. We say the ripoff.
I know, I'm doing my best, man.
And this Fight Comics one, I've never even seen this Fight Comics here. That one, I've never even seen that one, but it's a fiction house. It should be available, but I don't ever see it.
Where's the shark in it? I don't see the shark in that one.
Back here.
Right back in the back.
Okay.
Like the upper right. And, there's a couple other ones. There's a Popeye one and a Funny Folks. I've got this Fighting Yank over here.
Yep, that's right. I remember that one. Buster Brown. Oh, boy, that's like a giveaway.
Yeah, it is. And it's got a cool shark on it. And
I got to keep an eye out for that one.
And there's another Fighting Yank over here with a shark on it. And then I think I had I might have this on here twice. This number 41, Adventure Comics 41.
You just want it that bad, you're going to get it twice, huh?
I do want it bad. Those Adventure Comics 27 and 41 are like shark grails. And I think I have a Captain America 52 on here. Yeah, there it is, this one. That's attainable. It's, expensive, but I can find that. Yeah, so, I mean, this Rangers comic is not too expensive. This Exciting Comics up here is a Schomburg again. Yep. This Animal Comics is really cool with the dog on the boat over here on this side.
Cool.
So yeah, this is a set I put together, and I'll work on this set. And when I have them all, I will say I have all the shark covers. And every time I find a new one, I add it to the list. Point
here for that? What year is your cutoff?
Golden Age. So if it has a comics code stamp on it, it's out.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. Otherwise, I mean, you could go. If you go into like Silver Age and then Bronze Age and then even modern comics, there's that Jaws homage.
Yeah.
Recently.
Wow. Our buddy Knights of Old says you missed Marvel Mystery Comics 84.
Oh, is that the one with the sharks in the tank and the people being lowered into it? I thought I had that on here. Maybe I don't. I know which one he's talking about. I don't see it on here.
Yeah, I didn't know what number, but I've seen it before.
No, I did miss it. There's a real early Marvel Comics on Marvel Mystery Comics right here. I know the one he's talking about. I'm surprised I don't have that on here actually, but I'll add it later. So anyway, that's
the chat. I tell you, these guys are awesome. These guys are awesome. They help out. Of course, Knights of Old's got that amazing collection, so he knows his stuff backwards and forwards.
I'm not sure how to get back to the screen. It's back. Okay,
good. It's back. You're good.
Yeah, you're back. You're good.
All right. So
you're better than you think.
So there's a set. I get all those. It's a set. It doesn't have to be a run. It's a set, and I'll try to complete it. So yeah, come up with your own runs and try to fill them out.
Just like I'm trying to get that second print Marvel set. That's made up by me.
I thought you finished that already.
No, I still need like 4 or 5 to go.
Oh, you're all over it.
But I'm not paying eBay prices. I'm finding those in the wild. I'm going to go to a couple conventions this year. Hopefully I can knock those out there.
That should be good. I'd say you get it.
Yeah, I mean it's about 40 comics or so it's not a big set.
Wow. That's cool, though. I like those because, and I'm not knocking the price variance, but I like that they have truly something unique about the cover. That's pretty cool.
Well, you just picked up that New Mutants 87.
Yeah.
And I totally agree. That is a much better background than that yucky orange breadish.
So bad.
Yeah, it's terrible. Just clashes totally. Well, I just wish they didn't have the black in the UPC. I wish they had either left it out or they put a more subtle shade. You know what I mean? It kind of sticks out a little too much for me.
Oh yeah, here's the one Knights of Old was talking about. I need to add that one to the list. With Submariner has a shark on the shoulder.
Yeah, that's the one. All right,
that's sweet.
Right.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that one. The later ones in that issue are not really that collectible. so you don't see them that often. But and it's there's no Schomburgs after a certain point. Yeah, I'll have to add that one. That's cool.
That is cool. Yeah, I'm surprised there's not more Submariner comics or with sharks on them. There were only, I think, a couple there.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem like there are that many. I mean, I looked through most of them. I must have missed that one just when I looked at it. I didn't realize there was a shark, but
yeah, because he's carrying it. You probably were looking for water,
Yeah, I think that's what I do when I'm looking through a particular title that I think might have sharks. I'll just look and see if there's a water scene, and then I'll look deep and see in the water if there's a shark. There's a couple I have on that list that just have fins out of the water, and that counts as a shark cover because there's a fin.
Maybe you want live shark comics and not dead shark covers,
Well, yeah, I'll have to see if that one's alive or dead, mate. You're right, Roger.
What do you have to see? What are you going to do, prod it?
Well, I mean, I'll see if he's got X's on his eyes. That will mean he's a dead shark, and I can delete that one, and maybe I'll just do live shark covers. I don't know. Work in progress.
X's on his eyes. You've been watching too many old-time cartoons, man. Just because they leave that out doesn't mean it's alive. I mean, it's out of water. It's just over his shoulder. That thing is dead as a doornail.
Oh, no, he's going to jump up. He's going to bite Namor in the crotch.
I'll have to look into the story and see why he's holding that shark. He might be saving it and moving it to a new body of water, in which case it is alive. I'll have to look into the story to find out about that.
All right. Man, I tell you, talk about minutia here. Wow. Holy moly.
We're getting into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like lusting over my collection. It's very, I think it's healthy. But I'll go to the CLZ app, and I have it on my phone. I have it on my PC too, but I'll just look at my covers, and it's very therapeutic to go through and look at all the covers you have and scroll through. And it's like, man, if I ever came across this collection, I'd buy it right now, And it makes me feel good to see my collection with me, like when I'm walking around town or sitting waiting for something or in a doctor's office or whatever. I'll just look through there's another good second print variant, yep. Ghost Rider.
Yep.
With the glow in the dark head.
Yep.
So anyway,
there's two. There's a Ghost Rider 5 and 15. They're both second prints.
Pretty cool. So that's what I do. I don't have a nice list like that, but you've seen my con list, right? DS, I think.
I don't know if I have or not.
Like when I go to a con, so all throughout, I'll keep a list of books on my phone that I'm looking for just by name, and I'll write next to them what I want, why I want the book. Why is it important to me? It's a key for this reason, or it's a cover artist, or whatever the reason is. And then before I go to the con, I'll actually, print out a copy of the covers of all those books. That way I can have my friends and family help me, whoever's there, this is the book. If you see this book,
Oh yeah, I think you did show me that before, because you had Mrs. Bub hunting, and she had the pictures so she could see when she recognized the picture of it.
Yeah, it's really helpful. So you should bring that. You should keep that list in your back pocket all day, every day.
Because I come across so many Golden Age shark covers.
Yeah.
When I look through Comic Link auctions, there's the next one opens on April 10th, so a few days from now. I will peruse everything on there, and any shark covers I will place a $1 bid on. So I'm watching it. I already search all the Golden Age books on eBay routinely, although I can never keep up, because if you miss it for an hour and then you go check the new Golden Age listings, there's 1,000 of them. So you can never keep up on all of them. But I make that list, and then routinely I'll just pick a few off that list and see what's out there. And surprisingly, most of them on that list are pretty cheap and available. But a couple, like the Adventure Comics 27 and 41, those, an Adventure Comics 27 in a 4.0 would probably be $15,000 to $20,000.
Wow.
No joke. It's so sought after. It's such an awesome cover. It's such a rare book, and it's such an early book in a really cool series. That's a Craig Flessel cover. It's highly sought after, and there's maybe 20 in existence. I mean, it's not something I'll probably ever be able to get, but never know. It's on the list.
And if you have one, you don't sell it because you'll never find another. So
yeah, they don't even show up in the featured auctions, really.
they
I
don't.
saw
They're
one a couple
spots in
months ago.
collections, and that's it. That's why you don't see them. You know, I know two collectors who have them, and it took them. It took one 35 years to find one. So
Holy cow!
you know, I mean, I'm talking about somebody with big books, and it took them 35 years to find one.
Yeah, and the problem is, this would be a nice problem to have, but when I have enough money, when I have 20 grand to blow on a single book, and I see that, now all of a sudden that's in the mix with a bunch of other 20 grand books that I might want more. Do you know what I mean? If I have that much to spend on a book, all of a sudden that's not the book I want.
What about 4 or 5 grand books? That's kind of where I'd be, or $21,000 books.
You know, if I have. Yeah, I mean, the max I ever get up to usually is 5 grand for a book, and I've got to be real selective, because if you're making a purchase for that much, you've got to be sure that that's the book you want, and you've got to consider when you're going to see it again. How bad do you want it? What else is out there? Yeah, it's the more you have, the tougher it is to make a decision. It's easy to buy $20 books, $100 books. For me, you know, $500 books even. You know, $1,000 book, if I have it and I'm looking at something, you know, if there's one comes up in auction, I think it's cool, I'll buy it. But, you know, you get up into several thousand, yeah, it's tough to pull the trigger, because that's it. I mean, you're getting one huge grail, and that's it. You better pick the right one, and you better make sure you really want it.
Well, and then there's some people who are going to settle for that. I just saw a coverless ASM 15, or Amazing Fantasy 15, a coverless Amazing Fantasy 15 sell for almost $4 grand.
Yep.
And so, you know, when you're looking at $3,917 was a winning bid on that. A coverless, you know, if I had saved up almost $4 grand for a book, I don't think I could settle for a coverless book of any book.
Well, and that's where you've really got to be honest with yourself and know who you are as a collector. I could have my ultimate grail, and if it was coverless, probably it'd be Suspense 3 with the Schomburg cover. If I saw that coverless and I could afford it, I would probably pass on it, because I know myself, and as a collector, I don't want to say I have the book. I want to have a complete book with the cover that I can look at, and I'd rather not have it and get something else than buy the coverless. But some people are so desperate for a certain book, or, you know, it's not just that. I'm not being fair. Some people want the book, and if it doesn't have the cover, they're still cool with it because they've got the book. I mean, people buy books with missing pages or restoration. It's each your own. You have to be honest with yourself what you want. But I wouldn't. I can't buy a coverless book. Even the only thing is you could throw it up on YouTube and Instagram and say, look, I've got the book. And everybody be like, awesome. You get so many likes, and people be like, oh, great. Congratulations. Major Grail. Welcome to the club. Awesome book. And I would feel empty inside, because it doesn't do it for me. So.
Well, certainly Suspense 3 wouldn't, because the cover is such a big feature in that comic too.
I mean, that is the feature for me, would be the cover.
AF-15, the cover is iconic, but it's not like, you know, to me, it's not like the best cover ever or anything.
Well, AF-15, it makes sense because you have the text and, you know, the story, the art of the first Spider-Man in that book. You don't need the cover.
You don't need the cover.
To have
you don't need it as much, I would say. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Well, I think you need it. I think, because when I think of a first appearance book, and the first appearance is on the cover, then to me that's like a first panel. To me, that's a true first appearance.
Oh, and we're going down a rabbit hole here.
I'm just saying, you open the splash page, and you get the Here Comes Spider-Man, all that great stuff. That's fine, but the fact of the matter is that Amazing Fantasy 15 has Spider-Man on the cover. So to me, that is the first image of Spider-Man, and it's on the book. So it's not like it's an advertisement or anything like that. So that, I think, for that book, you have to have the cover for that book. I would sooner give up. Okay, so here's a question. What about centerfolds? What if let's say you come across that book, DS, and it has the cover, which is what you care most about, but it's missing the centerfold. Do you buy it for that same price?
You know, that would be tough. My initial reaction is to say I wouldn't, but that makes it, now it's much closer, because I'm not buying it for the story, but it's going to be a forever, you know, it's going to be that little nudge in the back of my head that I don't have a complete copy of it. And I almost prefer the hunt and the hope and the dream and the possibility of getting it more than having an incomplete version of it. But I don't know. I've never been faced with that. You know, we're talking about books that are like major grails here, and you know, if I came across, you know, some people bought like the remainder copies of Hulk 1. It's not so bad because the splash page says Hulk on the top. It sort of looks like the cover, and you're not missing an image of the Hulk anyway. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it's the first Hulk, yeah. But when you get into some of the Golden Age stuff, if it has the cover but not the centerfold, I don't know. I mean, I probably would. The point at which I would say definitely yes would be a complete copy with restoration, where the restoration includes something like tear seals or spine split sealed to the cover or something like that. I could go with that. But even if I found like a perfect shape copy with color touch or pieces added or trimmed, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Wow. And you said that you've been consistent with that, because that's exactly what you said way back when.
Well, and the reason I know this about myself is because when I got into Golden Age, a lot of stuff is all jacked up all over the place. You get a really good concept of what incomplete, what ragged, what low grade, what brittle, what resto is, all this stuff when you get into Golden Age, because that's a ton of it out there. You encounter it so much, you learn what irks you and what you're okay with. And you know, I have one restored book. It's a Chamber of Chills 19. It's got tear seals to cover and cover reinforced. There's some glue inside by the staple to keep the cover from coming detached from the bottom staple. Yeah. It bugs me.
But to me, I make a distinction there, because now you're talking, that's something that's to preserve the book so it doesn't
preventative maintenance there.
So to me, that makes sense to have. You know, it's not like color touch. That's different. Color touch, you're enhancing it so that it looks better. But the other one, you're doing it just so that it will be, you know, so there'll be efficacy of the book. Otherwise, it'll just come apart and you'll have a front cover and a back cover and a coverless cover.
Yeah, and you know, look, I've learned to sort of not worry about the color of a label if I'm buying a book, because look, CGC has their view of books and I have my view of books, and this Chamber 19 I have would be a conserved copy, a conserved label, if it had archival materials doing the exact same work as somebody used glue for. Somebody glued a tear seal, and the tear is by the staple where the reinforcement is, the same little piece there where they put glue. If somebody had used archival tape or done it in some more professional manner, they would give it a conserved label, and all of a sudden the value is way different. But the book, yeah, so what to me is how I feel about it. Now, do I want an unrestored book? Yes, I will probably send that in to get the glue removed, even if that staple comes detached, because that's a more true version of that individual book. But it doesn't bother me too much. But it bothers me enough to know that a Suspense 3 missing a centerfold or with color touch, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, a Grail, even if it's coverless, is worth it to me. You know, if only because the cover is, it's part of the comic for sure, and it's part of its collectability, it's part of its marketing. It's important. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm saying if you can get it, and you can get it for a reasonable price, I'd rather have that than nothing.
Well, okay, I'll throw this at you, and this is just I doubt it'll be much of a curveball to you, but one of the comic YouTubers that I watched early on in my resurgence of collecting, they had picked up a Fantastic Four #1, and it was off-white pages, cover completely detached, and missing, completely gone. And it was coverless, and they got a facsimile cover, married the facsimile cover to the book, and then got it graded and slabbed. And now to me, that is the most pointless thing. I actually unsubscribed after seeing that. I did. You guys know me. I'm quick. So that was the most ridiculous thing I had ever seen, because here you are, the only thing to appreciate about that book now, because it's in a slab.
You can't see it.
It's stuck. It's forever.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, completely useless.
Yeah, that's not really that uncommon, though. I see a lot of slabbed copies of books with facsimile covers. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but if somebody wants to, they have a well-preserved full book without the cover, but they have the full story, the full first appearance. It's slabbed, it's preserved. You want to display that. They want the facsimile cover there so you can see this is the Fantastic Four one, and it's like a placeholder that's never going to be removed. I get it, but I agree with you. Personally, I wouldn't want it, but I get why people do that. I mean, it's hard to put a coverless book up on the shelf and it looks like, what are you looking at? You know what I mean? But if you have that facsimile cover, you can see, Fantastic Four #1, and it's the actual book.
I can't go with you on this one, DS, because for me, if I'm going to show something off, I never want the phrase to leave my mouth, trust me, it's in there. Like that.
Right. Exactly.
I could just pull out an empty box or a closed long box and say that whole long box is filled with nothing but AF-15s, the whole thing. Just trust me, it's in there. Don't pick it up, it'll be lighter than you think. They're all in there. I don't want to have that. That's not a real thing to show off. So at that point, if I'm not going to be showing off a fake, what I consider to be a fake cover or whatever, then might as well just show the real one. At least you can see the front and back of it. I just don't see why you would encapsulate it and then basically spray black paint all over it. That's
I know, but see, some people will look at your collection where you have, you might be missing a Marvel value stamp, and they're like, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. But you're like, you're cool with it. It's complete. It does, you're just missing the stamp or whatever. But yeah, that's why you got to know what's acceptable for you, and don't follow the crowd, and definitely don't follow CGC labels. Like, if it's got what you need in a book, then who cares what the label is? I've had signature slab by CGC, and they get a green label. Oh, it's got a green label. Send it to CBCS. Why? I like the CGC holders better. What do I care what color the label is? You know what I mean? So who gives a crap?
Or you get the dreaded purple label.
Oh, yeah.
We used to call it the purple label of death, PLOD.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like purple labels because I don't like restoration. But I have one purple label that doesn't bother me because the restoration doesn't bother me because I really don't even think it's restored. CGC calls it restored, so they give it a purple label. But then the DS label on it's blue, and it would have a DS note under it on the DS label that says glue inside cover at staple, cover reinforced, tear sealed the cover.
This is perfect, DS. This goes back to what we were saying, that your words of wisdom sets are based upon our definitions, not theirs.
Right.
And the same thing goes here. That's why I'm not so big into slabbing my own books, because to me it doesn't make any sense unless it's like a resto thing, right? But to me, I want to have them because to me, Roger, Metarog, I want to touch my books. I want to smell them. I want to read them. I want to experience them. But that's just me. I understand when people, I'm not an anti-slabber. I'm just saying for me, it doesn't make sense for me.
Well, I like my books to be mostly raw. For kind of the opposite reason. So like DS is like, well, you have that book and it says, it's in a slab and the slab says it's missing the MVS. Okay, that's fine. But like I tell my wife, I say, look, one day I'm going to croak, obviously. And when that you keep eating all this peanut butter pie, it may happen sooner.
I was going to
say. But the idea is that if you took all the books that I own and you put them on a paper list, and then you told someone, okay, this is my husband's or my deceased husband's collection, and I want an offer, that's going to get a pretty good offer. And she should be able to sell it pretty well. Now, they may have a little buyer's remorse when they're thumbing through the books, even if they came and looked at them. Forget it being on a piece of paper. They come and they look at it and they see that these are mostly mid-grade books, and they're thumbing through. Well, there's no way she's going to let someone open up the Hulk 181 and start digging through it, So, you're thumbing through these books. The guy that starts doing that, he's going to have a lump in his throat, and he's going to be talking funny by the time he gets to the second box. And I want him to stop and just say, how much for the whole thing? Because he's so confident the rest of it. Now, when he goes home and starts grading all these books and then starts finding all the flaws and all this one, what is this, mold? No, there's no mold in there. But still, when he gets to it and he realizes, maybe I didn't get as good a deal as that will be my final act in the comic collecting community, is that my wife got a good deal selling all these comics off to somebody who got, awestruck. So there you go.
Man, talk about a whirlwind way of explaining stuff. Holy moly!
Yeah, for me, I don't really care if the book is what condition it's in as long as it's complete to me, because it's sort of like, even though if Golden Age stuff is covers for me, like this Startling Terror Tales, this red one here, it's complete, but it's very, very rough. But you know, I've got the cover, and then the rest of the book is complete, is sort of like the frame for that work of art. You know, I could have just the cover and it would look the same, but to know that I have the original framework and the original structure and book that this cover is attached to is important to me. So I'd rather have a super low grade complete than a much better looking one, like missing the Marvel Value stamp or whatever. But it just depends on who you are. And yeah, I mean, we've all bought books probably, which we didn't inspect closely enough, and then later on opened them up and found out they had, you know, issues. I bought an X-Men lot once. It was a full X-Men run from, what was it, 95. Okay, get this. It started at 95, no 94. But still, it was a pretty full run from 95 to like 220. It was a pretty solid lot. Almost everything was in there, and there were some doubles. 141, 142, 101, all that stuff was in there. But when I got back and went through them all, there were some that had a kid had gotten a pen and just scribbled entirely on every page in the interior, completely ruined the entire book. Not like a little scribbles, like it was like the sister was mad at her brother, and so she stole his comic book and drew on every single, scribbled on every page and darkened every page out.
That's a revenge scribble if ever there was one.
Yeah. So that book ended up being worthless, and it was an early one. It was like I don't know, it was like a 105 that looked in like 7.5 condition, but it was ruined. So, you know, things like that happen. I bought an X-Men. I bought a lot of X-Men. I had 2 copies. No, it had 1 copy of number 9 in there. 9 or 10. No, it was 11. What's the Stranger? Is that number 11? First Stranger. I think that's 11. It's a brown of X-Men. X-Men 11 with the Stranger on it.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a brown cover.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
And it had an ad page cut out, and I didn't look at it before I bought this lot, so I had to go replace it. And then, stupidly, I forgot which one was missing the ad page, and I sold the good one.
Yeah. Oh my gosh!
So I had to replace it twice. And then I recently sold, right? That's what I'm saying. So we all make mistakes. I bought that in a lot. I replaced it, and then I sold the replacement by accident. I sold the wrong one. And then I was looking through it again because I was sending some to get slabbed. And I'm like, damn it, I kept the wrong one. I can't get the slab. So I had to buy another replacement for it. So yeah, I spent a lot of money on that. And all I had to do was look. And it wasn't a huge lot. The X-Men, Silver Age X-Men lot I bought was probably only like 20 books. I could have looked at them all. But I didn't. They looked nice on the outside in the Mylars, and I just bought them.
Hey, Silver Age Dave is in the chat, so I put up some coverless comics for him since he loves these things. So here you go, Dave. There's 2 for you. Ghostbreaker, that's Star Spangled Comics, and this is an old Daredevil, Golden Age Daredevil.
Nice.
So you see, no regret. I can read those all I want, no problem.
Well, you know, I'm looking at my wall here, and the giant size X-Men that I have. It kills me. Every day I look at that, I want to crack it out of the slab.
Oh yeah. I'm with you there.
It's a 3.5, so I'm not going to lose too much. I think it has a little bit of the cover's not detached, but you know how those covers are and the way they're bound. You know,
yeah, they split.
Yeah, so it's got a little bit of cover split. I think like a cumulative spine split or cover split of like 3 inches or so. So I got to be careful. But every day I look at that book, I want to crack it out. I just can't help it. And then I look at my 181, which I did crack out and put back in. And every day I look at that, I want to send it to CGC to get reholdered. So it's like, it drives me crazy. Yeah.
Oh, man.
You know, there's some people that slab covers only. There's a guy I know has a Thing 15, the Ditko cover with the giant worm destroying the city. And he only has the cover, and he got that slabbed. And it doesn't get a grade. And where the number is, it says CVR. For cover only, but people get just the cover slab too, so they can display it along with their other slabs and it fits in. You know what I mean? So there's uniformity.
So they pull the book out from it, you're saying?
Well, no, they buy a lot, or they have for one reason or another. They like, you can have a coverless book. There's equally, you know, that cover's out there too. If you have the coverless book, that cover's out there. Somebody still has that. It got stuck between books or got pulled off or whatever. And some people end up with just the cover of something. And you can see them on eBay. People will sell just front and back cover only. And And, people will send those in and get the cover slabbed. And it's may seem ridiculous, but if you have a wall and you're displaying all your books and they're all CGC slabs and you want to put that cover up there, it makes sense to have that also in a slab. So there's uniformity. We're pretty obsessive and insane as collectors. Sometimes we want uniformity. We want completeness. That's why a lot of this happens. But yeah, covers get slabbed.
Yeah, I redid my room last night quite a bit, and I have an uneven wall now at the top. My top rack, I have, I have 4 slabs on the right, and I have 5 slabs on the left. So it's driving me crazy. I have to slab one of the books up there, but I don't know which one. And so I went to CBCS's website today because I think I told you guys last week I had filled out a survey when they asked me why I hadn't used their service for a year, and I responded because I didn't want to wait another year to get a book back. And so they sent me a $25 credit. So I went to use it today because I figured, well, I'll use it to get one of my signed books verified, right?
Yeah.
About the only thing I think they're good for. So I was like, well, I'll do that. And it turns out you had to have a minimum $100 purchase prior to shipping and tax in order to use the $25. I was so pissed.
Nice.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah, and people like
that's a coupon. That's not a gift certificate.
Yeah, but people always, they've told me in the past, send that to CBC. I sent a bunch of stuff to get pressed and cleaned professionally and told them to send them all to CGC. I think it was Hero Restoration out in Portland, or I think they're in Portland. And he contacted me back and said, hey, this one is signed. Do you want this to go to CBCS instead? And I was like, no, CGC is fine. And, CBCS will verify signatures, but you talk about expensive. I mean, you have to pay for the grading regularly, but then it's $25 per signature verification. That's the entire cost of grading a whole other book at CGC. Wow. You know what I mean? Like, wow. It's not cheap to get a signature verified by CBCS. No. And if it's the signature, if you're not reselling it, and I just send it to CGC and get the green label. Yeah, I mean it's cheaper.
I'm good with the green label if I had a COA. But I got these myself signed, so I know that they're legit, but I don't have the COA. He didn't offer COAs. So if I had a COA, I'd probably do it.
Take a picture of him signing it.
Take a picture. Yeah. Well, it's a little late for that, isn't it, Roger?
Well,
yeah, I'm probably going to get my
Superman Wisdom 2020, all that.
Yeah, I'll probably get my Superman and Batman 3D books slabbed just to preserve them. And I have the 3D glasses, but they're loose. And CGC said I could send them to them, but it's not going to affect them. They're still going to get a qualified label, and they'll return the glasses to me anyway. So I'll just send them in without the glasses, get the green labels. And then I'll put the glasses in like a nice envelope or something and put it in the back of the bag with the slab. Yeah. And, that's fine with me. I don't care. It's complete. They're just not attached on the inside. So, I don't care. I mean, that's what I'm saying. People get too caught up in like the labels whatever's good for you is good. Unless you're going to sell stuff down the road, it has a value factor depending on what the label is. But
you're right.
Can't get too wrapped up in what the label says.
PGX, you're right. I'll send it to PGX and I'll get whatever color label they put on it. I think it's a shipping label when they send it back. It's got
they have a short piece label.
Yeah, they just take it. They put whatever color you want. They take requests. Yeah.
Well, is CGC charging extra now for like these Spider-Man labels and
yeah, they're $5.
The Avengers label. Yeah.
Yeah, they got a new Avengers label. I saw that today. Yeah, I mean, they're cool. I guess it's not for me. I don't want Stanley's face on my label either. Do you know what I mean? Like they got his picture on there for this Stanley Signature Series. I don't really want his face on the label, but I mean, it makes it look. I don't know. It's not for me, but I know they're doing it and they're charging extra money for it. I wouldn't pay extra for it, but
I think I'm going to send in 5 books for those extra labels, for those different labels. And my reasoning behind it is that I don't see any. It's kind of an experiment because you hardly see any of them for sale on eBay. No one's buying into these special labels. So if no one buys into them, they'll probably discontinue it. And if they discontinue it, then there's probably only going to be a few books that have those labels.
You're talking about like the Avengers label and the Spider-Man label? Well, I mean, I already see them on eBay. I mean, people are buying them. They're already.
There's not many of them.
And I just started it.
Yeah, and I'm not seeing a big price difference between the ones that sell with the label and the one that sell without. Looks like it doesn't really matter. It's all about the number on the book. is what's dictating the price. I don't see anyone paying extra for the special labels.
But that's what I'm saying. People get so caught up in the label that they're now marketing a different thing on the label when the thing is the book, man. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like, people are getting so caught up in the color of labels and the style of label and have Stanley's picture on there or Spider-Man or an Avengers label. Like, are you getting a label or are you getting a book? Like, it's your book. So, I mean, for me, it's the book. I don't really care if the label has Stanley's face on it or not. Do you know what I mean? Like, but, you know, it might be different to different people, but I advise people not to get caught up in what the label is. Just make sure you're happy with the book for yourself, for your collection, and then get whatever is the best way to preserve it or what case you like best or what grading service you like best. Don't worry about the label.
Well, like Asimfunk's saying is that they picked the ugliest sketches to put on those labels, and I agree. The sketches, the little tiny little sketch that they put in the corner there, they're all like the crappiest versions. I think that they don't want to pay anybody for use of their sketches, so they're just some crappy sketches. They don't look, they're not great representations of the characters even.
Yeah, plus they're all off to the side because they still have to have all the data on the label, so there's not a lot of room to put a picture, so they're kind of like forcing it, and it looks hokey. It looks hokey to me, but you know, I'm sort of an old curmudgeon sometimes. I'm not the best one to ask advice on stuff like that. I don't have a popular opinion sometimes, but
are you saying that there are times when you're not a curmudgeon?
It's the exception to the rule, I think.
So that infers there are other times that he's not.
It does, doesn't it?
More and more I am. I'll tell you that. I become more and more curmudgeon-y over time. But
curmudgeon-y. Is that an adverb? I didn't know that.
Now.
It is now.
Yeah, get on his lawn and see if it's an adjective.
Oh, no.
It might be a verb.
There are probably lasers out there at this point.
I tell you, I tell my wife all the time that I get kind of meaner and nastier every day. And I think the main reason is because I have her. And so, like, I guess once upon a time or whatever, for a while in my life, I would be like extra sweet to every woman that I met, right? Like, you know, you never know. This could be a potential relationship someday. So you should treat them all nice and, you know, be nice to everybody. And now I'm like, I don't need anything from any of you. Just
oh man,
hold your own door. Get out of the way. Well, yeah.
Chivalry is dead. Chivalry is dead.
It is. It died in me. It died in me when I met my wife. So that happens, you know.
I can't say that happened to me. I think I'm all, you know, even it's sort of the opposite because I have a wife and because of, you know, how much I feel for her and all that. I sort of transmit that to other people. I mean, not in the same manner, of course, but as far as attitude, yes.
I'm worried that I only have a finite amount of patience and niceness, and I don't want to waste it on people I don't care about. So I save it all for her. So I'm super nice to her. I open all her doors, and I treat her as good as I think anyone possibly could. Like I shoot for the highest marks possible at all times. And so that just exhausts me, and I don't save any in the tank for anybody else. I just need to build it back up. So
yeah, we usually only get about 10 minutes of it out of you that's left in the tank for the show. It's just the fumes. We get the patient's fumes that are left in the tank, and then the rest of the show is brutal.
It's a short honeymoon here on the No Faces chat.
I need to get out of here.
Yeah,
before she runs out of patience with me.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
The dog's got to go park.
Yes. We don't know what that means, Roger, but we hope you do it safely. And this is Bub's Comics.
Two together there, Bub.
That's what I assume. This is Bub Comics signing off. DS, go ahead and give your quick sign off.
All right. Everybody do your homework. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.
Thanks, DS. Go ahead, Roger.
Okay, guys, great chat. You guys are awesome. Thank you for putting up with us for all this time. And everybody be back and be blessed. Bye.
Yes. Be back and be blessed. And I'll tell you all to read a comic, and we'll catch you next week on No Faces Comic Shack. Thanks to everyone in the chat and everyone that's joined us tonight. You guys are always awesome as always. So catch you next week. Read a comic. Bye.
DS gone.